What's going on, guys? Welcome to Dope and Dusty, and today we're going to be going over my preferred settings and how to actually find your preferred settings and a couple of other tips and tricks on the Peak Pro. And so before I even get started with letting you know my preferred settings, I also want to let you know, guys, these are settings for me. These are for my size of dabs and how I like them. And I do, from what I see from other comments, I do like them a little hot. I don't like them blazing hot, but I do like them a little bit more on the hot side. And so with that said, I would really appreciate if anybody else that has a Peak Pro, comment down below. Let me know what your settings are. It'd be nice to see some other settings, and for the other people that watch this video, they can kind of see some other users and what their settings are at. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know what my preferred settings are. And currently, right now, I have changed them up a little bit, but I tend to choose my green setting I find the most. And that's gonna be 534 degrees for 47 seconds. My next favorite's probably going to be my higher setting, is going to be 564 for 51 seconds. And this one I find sometimes is a little hot for me, but it is like my hot setting. I don't think I'm going to go much higher than that. That's my hottest setting right now. I do have peak mode, but I don't go into that. I found that 564 was almost a little bit too hot possibly. My low setting right now is 482, and that's just the normal blue setting that it came with. I have tried this out a couple times. It does really save dabs, I'll say that. It left me a puddle, a really big puddle, and I had to use it again, actually, when I tried it on the blue setting. So it gave me 2 dabs instead of the normal 1. The effects weren't crazily like degraded. Most of the time when you go to a super low temperature, you won't feel the effects. It wasn't like I took that 562 dab, but it was not like it didn't hit me at all. And that 482 is for 52 seconds, if I didn't mention that earlier. And if you guys didn't notice, as I go up in temp, my time also kind of comes down. And that's because it eats through the extract quicker. That's something you want to keep in mind whenever you're setting up your settings. All right, guys, and I don't know if I kind of went into this as much as I thought I did, but selecting your temp and time is kind of going to depend on you. You know, does it feel harsh in your throat? You definitely don't want it to feel hot or harsh in your throat. You want it to be a good experience. So you kind of want to pick it up into the point, or bring it down into the point to where it's a good experience and it's not burning your throat. And the time setting is going to be kind of more determined on how much you're kind of throwing in. And you know, those are both variable by changing each one. You know, if you pick up the temp really, really high, you're going to have to bring down the time a little bit lower. Or if you do the temp, you know, the exact opposite, you're going to have to do the exact opposite there. But yeah, you know, typically if you do it the normal way of around like 600, you know, you have a small dab, you may want to do 30 seconds. A fat dab, you may want to do 50 seconds. That's kind of how you're going to find your middle grounds. And then you're going to want to leave it to where you have just a little bit of wetness in there. You don't want to leave it completely dry in there, because then it's harder to clean the atomizer. So you want to just, I'm not saying a puddle, but just a little bit of like dampness and wetness in there for you to kind of be able to clean everything off the bottom. Also keep in mind with these settings, as you go up in temperature, you're losing a little bit of flavor. And as you go down, my 482, I'm probably going to get the most flavor from it. And my 564, I'm getting the least, but I'm getting more effects. So keep that in mind whenever you're dialing in your settings. And guys, I also did want to add, I know I mentioned it in my past videos, but whenever you set your settings on here, so let's say I have my 534 for 47 seconds, that is now programmed in my Peak Pro. So whenever I hit it 2 times on green, those are my settings. So it's so nice that I no longer have to bring the app out every time. And that's a little tip and trick that I kind of have for you guys right there. So you guys can kind of, you know, not waste so much time connecting to the app every time. If you already know you have those preferred settings set and you're taking your usual dab, you can just hit it twice and you're ready to go. It's starting to heat up at your preferred settings. Also, guys, another little tip I have is I have cut off the lights on this by going into the settings here. I'll kind of show you guys by going into the settings right here and going into this mode right here that it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but right there, hitting that button right there puts me in stealth mode, and it turns the light off on my Peak Pro when I'm hitting it. And I will say it has already given me 3 hits extra from having the lights on. I did have the lights on the brightest setting. That's just how my Peak Pro came. It came on the brightest setting, so I know that was draining a lot of battery. And I did get 26 hits on a full charge, and I believe I got 29 to 30. I think it actually still has about 1 or 2 hits left. I think I'm on hit number 29 right now, and it still has a couple hits left. So I know that light definitely drains some battery. It makes a difference. But also, as I've turned it off, I've realized I almost kind of like it. It kind of lets me know when the Peak Pro is ready to hit. That light is really nice. I'm thinking I am going to turn it back on, but just at a lower setting. And also, guys, whenever you hit the settings button in the Peak Pro, you can also go to the boost mode down here. And what that allows you to do is while you're hitting your Peak Pro, let's say you already know that there's a huge glob in there and it still needs some more time. So what you can do is you can hit that boost mode, and what you do is you set the boost mode in here for, you can set it up for, an extra 15 seconds. You can boost it up in temperature 20 degrees. So whenever you hit that boost mode while you're in mid hit in the Peak Pro, what it allows it to do is give you that extra time and extra temp. So it kind of saves you from having to do a reheat if you're kind of on the ball and you can kind of see, because you have the Oculus carb cap, so you can see how much is kind of still in the chamber. So that's a really cool setting that I'd encourage you guys to set up. All you have to do is hit the boost mode and it'll ask you, how long and how much more temp you'd like to add whenever you're taking your hit. And that little button comes up while you're taking your hit. It'll be on the bottom left or right hand side. I can't remember which one it is. You can also just add time, and I believe that one's on the bottom left hand side. Another thing that is really cool is back-to-back hits actually are really, really good with the Peak Pro, and I think it actually saves battery. Since this does sense the temperature of the bowl, it's not something that will actually break the atomizer. It's not going to go too much over that preferred setting that you have there, since it can tell the temperature. So going back-to-back hits is not necessarily a bad thing, and I think it actually saves you battery since the bowl is still keeping a lot of the heat there. And it doesn't have to use as much energy to kind of bring it back up to temp. This was kind of different on the Carta, because I believe that the Carta sends a certain amount of volts for a certain amount of time to reach that temperature. It doesn't necessarily keep track of how hot the bowl is. And I did break a couple of my original V2 atomizers due to this. My Everlast, though, I didn't have any trouble or any issues with it. I could hit it back to back and with no issues. But with my V2, I noticed that definitely broke two of my atomizers for sure. And that's why I stopped doing that with my Carta until I got the Everlast atomizer. And to all my Carta fans, guys, I have a video coming up. I got the Magna Carta, so it did come with the glass and the ceramic inserts. So I'm going to be trying those. Since this ceramic was so good, I want to try it on the Carta and see how that performs. So that review is going to be coming up soon. Stay tuned for that. And another tip I did want to add was that I had been smoking a lot of rosin out of here, and I actually left a little mark. I accidentally put it on the 590 on the peak mode, and I left a little mark on the bottom of my chamber, and I was so upset. I soaked it in 100% alcohol. I have like a medical grade 100% alcohol here. That's super hard to find. I know most people are going to be like, you can only get 99.9. That's what I thought. But I do have 100%, and I soaked it in here for like an hour. Nothing. I was upset. I had already went to the Peak Pro or to the Puffco website and was about to order me another atomizer. They are $60, but I was like, I make these videos. I want y'all guys to see a clean atomizer. And that stain just would not come off. Well, after I took a couple of dabs, I noticed that it was starting to come off. And about after the 5th dab, that stain was no longer on the bottom of my atomizer. So guys, if you have a stain on the bottom and alcohol is not getting it off, I mean, I'm sure you guys are still hitting it and you realize that it came off. But yeah, I'd encourage you guys to take a fat dab and leave a little puddle in there. And when you scoop it out with the Q-tip, kind of move that puddle around to kind of let it soak up all around in there. And that's what I've noticed that has really taken off the scorch marks that I got one time on the bottom of this chamber. And like I said, guys, I was so upset because the alcohol didn't take it off. I thought there was no way that wax would clean my chamber, but it did. So if any of you guys have some marks in there, try to take a fat dab and leave a little puddle whenever you clean it a couple times. And like I said, it took me about 5 times, and after that, it worked out perfect. I no longer have any marks on the bottom of mine right now. And I did want to mention this as I had a couple people ask me, actually, if I've been saving dabs with the Peak Pro. And I would have to say, no, I'm not. I'm actually using as much as I would with the Banger. With the Carta, I did save a lot of wax because the chamber's so small, you just load a little bit in. With this, I can load a fat dab in, and I get a lot more taste. I'm not gonna lie, and it hits me. I love it. I like it more. I will say that. I'm not upset that I'm wasting more wax. I'll put it that way. And guys, when I say wax, I most of the time smoke rosin, so I'm just so used to saying wax. I mean to say concentrates. But yeah, 99% of the time I'm smoking rosin, a little bit of resin, and every once in a while I'll get some wax, but it's just kind of harsher on my throat, so I don't like the resin and wax. I really like rosin. It's definitely a step above. I can tell it big time. However, now I did mention how whenever I hit it at 582 degrees, I did have to hit it twice. So maybe if you do hit it at a lower temperature, you can maybe save dabs. I do see that as a possibility. It's just I'm not using it for that. That's not what I'm using it for. I love the way what it does right here, taking a fat dab off of a little rig right here, giving me a actual rig experience from an e-rig. That's what I like. I will say the Carta I do think hits a little bit harder, but it's only for a shorter time because you can only load so much into that chamber compared to what you can load into here. And lastly, I will have a video coming up on how to clean this. I have cleaned it once already, but I kind of just want to clean it again to see what else I can do to kind of simplify the process. Another thing, guys, if you haven't checked out my Instagram at DOPEnDUSTY yet, go ahead and check it out. I have some really cool content on there, little short clips and videos of the Peak Pro and other cool rosins and waxes that I get. So check that out for some really cool content. It's basically me showing off the cool Peak Pro without me doing all this talking that I do to make these videos so long. So if you like to see the Peak Pro without me talking, my Instagram is definitely where you want to go. Like, comment, and subscribe. Again, don't forget to comment down below for your preferred Peak Pro settings so other guys can kind of see what other people's settings look like and not just mine. Alright guys, and that's going to wrap it up on this episode. Until the next smoke session on DOPEnDUSTY, see you guys later.